Welcome to the intersection of politics and everyday life. I'm Brian Lehrer. The New York cab driver is now stuck at the intersection of politics and desperation, and that includes yellow and green cabbies and those working for Uber, Lyft, and other app-based car services. Just a few years ago, a New York cabbie could make a predictable living. Yellow taxis were the only legal ones that could pick up street hails, and the city put a limit on their number. Medallions, the metal badges, which gave drivers that sole right to pick up riders from the street, were expensive, going for up to $1 million as recently as 5 years ago. There were enough fares to keep up with a bank loan. Well, no longer. Now, in the new gig economy, the 13,000 or so yellow cabs are outnumbered more than 5 to 1. Medallions have lost 80% of their value in so many cases. The city could have put a limit on the number of rides that we hail from our smartphones, but it didn't. And app drivers with Uber, Lyft, and the like are struggling as well. Too much competition for them too. Plus, expenses are high, and app companies take a big bite. And now, in addition to the 4 drivers who have taken their lives in recent months, you've heard about some of those in the news, I'm sure, a yellow cab owner-driver, Kenny Chow, has gone missing, his cab abandoned near the East River. His family fears he may have taken his own life. How can we fix this tragically broken piece of our city? To begin our discussion, 2 guests. Bhairavi Desai is Executive Director of the 19,000-member New York Taxi Workers Alliance, and City Councilman Fernando Cabrera is co-sponsoring legislation to regulate app-based vehicles. He represents an area of the West Bronx, including Morris Heights, University Heights, part of Fordham, and Kingsbridge. Welcome to both of you. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you.
And before we even get into policy discussions, I guess we can all acknowledge that this is a very emotional issue. This is an issue with a human toll, as I just mentioned in the introduction. What do you see as the emotional and human backdrop of this policy conversation? Councilman?
Well, you know, in talking to the taxi drivers in my district and throughout the district, they are experiencing a tremendous level of pressure like I have never seen before. They're getting paid very low. But next year, they'll be making less than somebody working in a fast food place. The obligations are rising. The TLC violations and penalties that are being imposed upon them, they're totally unfair. And this is why we are introduced certain bills and LS requests to address this particular issue.
And Bhairavi, same question.
Oh, it's just been devastating. I mean, we've been organizing since 1996. You know, this is just a really tough job, right? Taxi drivers are 30 times more likely to be killed on this job than in other professions. So we've always, you know, we've seen crisis through the years, but nothing of this nature. I mean, drivers talking about working 12, 13-hour shifts, still experiencing hunger. There's a rise in bankruptcies, in foreclosures, in evictions, just levels of isolation. There are more and more families, you know, husbands and wives that are double shifting the taxis, which means people hardly ever get to see each other. And, you know, you mentioned Kenny, you know, who's been missing since May 11th. I mean, you know, Brian, if you asked me, you know, 5 years ago, we have through the years worked with families where drivers have gone missing. And, you know, in the past, you fear murder or assault because of the risks on this job. And today, your mind goes to suicide. And that, I think that speaks such volumes of what we're going through as a workforce.
It really does. So, Councilman, what's in your bill?
Well, my bill 748 calls upon oath, which is the court where TLC brings forth taxi drivers not to impose a double fine. So for example, a taxi driver gets fined by TLC, they all of a sudden get notified by DMV. I mean, this is like a form of double jeopardy, which is totally an injustice in the system. And I'm shocked in such a progressive city like New York City that we have social practices. We also, in that bill, will call for if a taxi driver comes in and normally they're waiting there for a long time, and if it's longer than 3 hours, that the case will be dismissed. They got to get back and work. You know, they're on the clock. And so we want to be able to also help the taxi drivers in that way. We have many provisions there that at the end of the day is going to help them deal with the issues. Then we have other council members as well, like Diazs, which has the most controversial bill of them all, which is trying to deal with the issue that we have too many cab drivers out there, and there's not enough work for everybody to go around. This is a very difficult issue. It's morphic. It's been literally changing by the week, sometimes by the day. I literally have to talk to him almost every day about this issue because it's changing. So at the beginning, they were going to ask for $2,000 fee. We have brought it down to $400 for every 2 years.
This is for the app-based, like Uber and Lyft drivers. And what does that do? What would even the $2,000 every other year have done? Is that supposed to discourage people out of the business so that there isn't as much competition, so that each remaining driver can make a decent living?
Yeah, essentially that was the idea. I'm not in full agreement that it should be that high, and actually it's gone down, remarkably down, since we started that discussion.
But then how is it effective? Like $400 every other year, $200 a year, that's not going to discourage anybody off the road, right?
Yeah, I agree with you. You know, and what happens with bills, we begin in one form and then they begin to develop, and it's just to get the discussion going. I don't even know at the end of the day there's going to be a charge. The point of the bill right now that is becoming more significant is asking Uber that they will guarantee 10 rides per hour. And that way we could assure the drivers that they get a certain amount.
What do you mean guarantee 10 rides per hour? Because if nobody hails you, nobody hails you.
Yeah, and because, you know, in the view of some of the council members is that they're partly the reason that we have such a glut of so many people going out there and doing this kind of work.
So it's like a guaranteed minimum wage.
Yes.
Uber would have to pay the driver the amount of money of 10 average rides per hour. So then Uber wouldn't sign up as many drivers. Is that what
absolutely. But we still have challenges, the questions that I have myself. So for example, let's say if I have Uber and I have Lyft, and I did 3 with Uber and I did 4 with Lyft. And so we haven't been able to answer that question yet. What happens if I'm tapping into both? Would that be fair to Uber? Because what we don't want to do is we don't want to destroy the infrastructure whereby our taxi drivers are getting opportunities.
Bhairavi, what version of a bill do you and the Taxi Workers Alliance support?
Well, there's, I mean, some really interesting things happening. I mean, I think what Councilman Diaz's bill, you know, that Councilman Diaz is sponsoring, the main thing it does is it allows for a regulatory framework to finally regulate this particular sector, which for 5 years has really operated unfettered, right? Like the drivers have all been required to be under the same license, but the companies have been under-regulated.
The Uber companies.
Yes, Uber, Lyft, and these app-based, you know, Wall Street finance companies. There are, I think the one issue currently with that bill would be that the bill requires that the driver could only work with one of the app companies. And, you know, it's just a scenario of because it's too late, it feels too early. You know, by that I mean that this is something that should have happened 5 years ago, which is how the industry functioned. You worked with one company steadily. But these companies, you know, Uber and Lyft, because they don't want to be classified as an employer, and bear the responsibilities over the drivers, they've encouraged a precariousness in the industry. And so now drivers are forced to be dependent on a number of apps. But I think...
and do you object to, in other words, one driver, they can have the Uber sign in the window in their car for a while and then do another shift and have the Lyft sign, that kind of thing?
I mean, our position would be that the way to begin right now is to cap the number of vehicles, come up with the formula so that, as Councilman Cabrera is talking about, the majority of the Uber and Lyft workforce across the country, even though numbers are less in New York, majority outside of New York are part-timers, because that's what they're encouraging. They depend on people that are unemployed and underemployed to do this quote-unquote on the side. And but the consequence of that is the full-timers who have no other profession, no other way to make ends meet, are seeing less fares and a drop in their incomes.
So why not go all the way to a cap on the number of cars on the road that can pick up passengers in any form? That's what the medallion system was. The city set the cap. The drivers could make a living. It's possible that the riders were underserved, that there were too few cabs. That's possible. But now with this unbelievable glut with Uber and Lyft by the many tens of thousands, maybe over 100,000, why not just, and is this what the Diazs bill does as compared with your bill? Just say, okay, we're going to find that number, whatever it is, and that's the total number of cars that can be licensed to do this. Why not just go there?
Well, there's two ways to go about it, but I have some good news for you. And first, right here in your show, which is we're no longer looking at just allowing a driver to only have to use one base. So you'll be happy to hear we have dealt with that. We have not seen as a
meaning for the yellow cab drivers.
For the yellow cabs or any
multiple companies for the first time. Do you like that?
Well, I mean, that exists now. I guess you're really referring to the app-based drivers, because that's what the regulation currently covers, right? But Councilman Levin does have a bill that would cap the number of vehicles. There's another bill that Councilman Lander has sponsored that would require a minimum wage for the app-based companies to pay to the drivers. Now, we think that's a good starting point. I mean, it's important to establish a floor or you just sink deeper into poverty. But the problem is we still need the council to allow for the drivers to earn commission based on the fare. So see, what's been happening over the past year and a half, Uber and Lyft utilize something called upfront pricing. So they quote a base fare to the passenger. That fare, studies have shown, is on average over 25% higher than the rate of fare that they use to repay the driver. Right? So they're earning something much higher from the passenger.
In other words, if I'm using the Uber app, for example, and I'm seeing a ride from here to there, it's going to cost X dollars because they will show you that on your screen before. Right,
and you agree to that base amount. Once you get into the car, then the meter starts clicking behind the scene.
That's right.
And that's what Uber uses to calculate the payment to the driver. But the fare on average they collect from the passenger is 27% higher than the fare by which they pay the driver. And the thing that's important here is that as Uber and Lyft both, have more and more of the market share and have more pressure to go public, they're going to raise the rate of fare on the passenger. We don't want drivers to be locked out of that revenue trickling down to them.
Is Uber and is Lyft too cheap now, in your opinion?
No, I mean, that's what's interesting. The fare by which they pay the driver is absolutely too low. But the fare by which they calculate the charge to the passenger, right, oftentimes, on average, is actually over 20% higher than what the passenger might even pay on the regulated taxi meter. So it's this imbalance.
That surprises me. That's not, Councilman, the general perception.
Right.
And having used both, I would say, and also having traveled some and used Uber in other cities, I think the difference in New York tends to be smaller than the difference in other places.
Yes.
Between the yellows and the Uber. There are some situations where an Uber is considerably cheaper. I don't know those where it tends to be higher unless there's surge pricing, a time where there's a lot of usage, so those prices then can really spike.
Well, we have many Uber members, and so we looked about a year and a half ago when Uber started utilizing upfront pricing. Drivers would see on their payment statements that the passenger may have paid $40 to Uber, and meanwhile Uber calculated the fare to the driver at like $25.
So it's interesting that your group, which people who follow the news on this topic probably consider the yellow cabbies informal union, you also now represent Uber drivers, so you feel their interests are the same?
The only way drivers are going to survive this is if they band together. This is an industry that is going through a historic shift, and there's collective power if all the drivers are united. One of our proposals is that the minimum fare must be the regulated taxi meter rate. If under upfront pricing, Uber and Lyft are already charging higher than that rate, there should be no problem with that becoming the minimum fare. So then when there is a fare raise, all 100,000 drivers can collectively benefit from it.
We're going to ask an Uber driver shortly what he thinks about that idea, but Councilman, why not incorporate that into the bill? If the city sets the rates for yellow cabs and green cabs, why not just include Uber and Lyft and any others in that same pricing infrastructure under the law, and then you have parity?
You know, what I love about these proceedings and process is that you get to hear a different side. I had a great opportunity to meet with your group and to have conversations. And as a matter of fact, as a result of this conversation, I introduced an LS request that is being written right now to be able to afford this opportunity and to put it, into the infrastructure of TLC. And so I'm very hopeful that this will become law. We're looking as soon as June. Discussions are going to ramp up as we deal with the budget right now in the next couple of weeks. But this is priority number one. Because there will be parity, and that's what we need in this process.
So maybe you just broke a little more news here.
Absolutely. I'm making her day today.
But
really, she was the catalyst.
Thank you.
What about a medallion owner's bailout? If people invested $1 million or they took a mortgage, which many medallion owners do for the yellow cabs, and then all of a sudden, because the city allowed the market to change from what the city promised the yellow cab medallion owners it was going to be over the years, all of a sudden that medallion's value has dropped 80% and they're underwater, as they call it in banking. Why isn't it on the taxpayer to bail them out, for the city to make them whole?
Well, actually, I haven't heard that recommendation, so that's the first one I have heard. Yet the yellow cabs are actually telling me that the recommendations that are coming from the coalition and that are being brought forth will actually help them increase the value of the medallion. They expect within the first year $100,000 increase.
How?
I think, I'm not exactly sure. What I'm speculating is that it would attract more, like the yellow cabs are telling me right now, they can't even find somebody to drive their vehicles. So even those who bought the medallion are forced to go and be driving, 12 hours. So somehow, some way, as the way they explained it to me, it will be more attractional. Maybe you have more information on this,
yeah.
But this is, for them, they're like ecstatic that these bills are moving forward because it's going to definitely increase their value.
So a last word from you on this, and then we're going to swap out your seat for somebody representing Uber drivers in particular.
I mean, I think that what people really want is just a fighting chance. They want a sense of equity, right? And they, where drivers are able to earn a livable income and not be in such a desperate state. I think for many owner drivers, we have so many members, the thing that you hear from them is they want an opportunity to make it out there. If there's a cap on the number of vehicles, if there's, the same minimum rate across the board, a few more changes that need to be made, then at least they would have a fighting chance. And most of the drivers we talk to now who may be struggling, owner drivers, they're not really looking for a bailout. They're looking for, reform that would give them an opportunity to continue to work.
Bhairavi, Desai, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, a few weeks ago, a group of app-based drivers protested the proposed City Council legislation that we've been talking about, or a version of it anyway, the bill that originally included a $1,000 yearly fee for each car and would restrict drivers to one company like Uber or Lyft. That's all been changed now. The Independent Drivers Guild represents the drivers and produced this promotional video about the protest. A video from the Independent Drivers Guild. Let's dig further into this taxi issue. City Council member Fernando Cabrera remains at our table, and joining us as well, Uber driver Sohail Rana. He is a member of the IDG, the Independent Drivers Guild, which advocates for more than 60,000 app-based drivers. They've petitioned City Council to consider guaranteeing them the city's minimum wage, also to limit the cut the Uber and Lyft corporations can take from each fare. And as you just saw, they don't like the bill our guest, Councilman Cabrera, originally co-sponsored. Welcome to our show.
Thank you.
Legislatively, well, first tell me about being an Uber driver. Is the business model for you, and I gather you're not doing that as much anymore and you're doing more of this advocacy work, but when you were really making your living driving, is the business model different from somebody who drives a yellow cab?
I mean, it's completely different, yeah. It's completely different, and I think the biggest thing is right now, app-based drivers, they're getting 40% less fares than the yellow cab. I mean, the income.
Because?
Because when app-based companies came, they cut the prices twice.
So is your beef, I mean, I've been told by representative yellow cab drivers that Uber actually funds your group. Is that true? And is your beef more with Uber or more combined with Uber against the city?
I mean, to start with, I think we are for the drivers, yellow cab drivers or the app-based drivers. And then as for the people always ask about the funding. Our job is right now to do fight for the drivers. And then I think every company, every app-based company should assist the unions or the drivers, especially if that money is used for the drivers' benefits.
That sounds like a yes. Uber helps to fund what you do. So can you pressure Uber to give you a better cut as a driver? Because what we've been hearing, I think you were able to hear the first part of the show, is that Uber puts so much downward pressure on what the drivers take home, even compared to what the users, the riders, are paying.
Right. I mean, that's why we filed a petition with Taxi and Limousine Commission, and we've been talking to council members, and it is through the legislature. It's not through we have any personal connection. There is no any connection like that.
Yeah.
We can press.
So how do you see the interests of the Uber drivers putting pressure on you different from the yellow cab drivers to do the right thing legislatively?
So actually, I actually spoke to Uber last week. I had to sit down with them. They were very cordial. But one of the things I mentioned, when they first came in, they were getting 20% cut, and then it went to 25. On top of that, there's taxes. So now we're talking about 37%, as I understand. So that's a big cut. So I asked them, I said, well, wait, why did you increase it? You're making enough money. I mean, you're a multi-billion-dollar company. Why don't you reduce it? And they told me they're going to go back and talk to their principals and to see if they could bring it down to the initial, because it feels to me like a little bait and switch. You have all these Uber drivers, they made a major investment, they got their vehicles, they got their license, they did, and they made a career choice. Let's give them what they got in for.
Right. In some cases, I mean, these companies are making more than even 50%, like how Ms. Desai, like she said, like, they give you upfront pricing. Let's say if your fare is, they will tell you your $100 fare, and then they will give driver still like $30, $40, and they pocket the rest.
Based on as if the fare was lower.
If the fare was lower, you're right.
As if.
Right, because drivers get paid only by the mileage and the minutes, so it doesn't matter, but they give passenger upfront pricing.
Right.
That's why Independent Drivers Guild, when filed a petition, we asked for 37% pay increase. Also, the companies cannot charge more than 20% commission what passenger pay. So that will cap like double dipping by the companies.
So is there a unified front at this point between Uber drivers and yellow cab drivers as far as what the city policy should be, or do you have different interests?
I mean, our interest is the same for all the drivers, for the yellow cab drivers and for the app-based drivers. We would love to work with TWA, like, if they want to work with us, because we are for all the drivers, because all the drivers are like immigrants and they are like same human beings.
TWA, the Taxi Workers Alliance that Bhairavi Desai represents. So how would you feel about a cap on the number of Uber cars on the road?
Right. I think the cap on a vehicle is a wrong thing to do, because that will raise the value of the cars. Then the companies can say, oh, we only can hire 10 drivers or 20 drivers, whatever the driver's number is. Then they can charge whatever money, the rental companies or the leasing companies. But if you cap the licenses, then the value of the driver will increase, which will translate into better money for the drivers because they don't have that many drivers.
Sorry, cap whose licenses? Is that the
for the drivers?
For the drivers. So there could only be X number of drivers.
Drivers, yeah.
That's what you want. It's
yes.
Not so many people. In other words, in that case, then there wouldn't be so many part-timers like there are with Uber in other cities. It would be more of a job for full-time Uber drivers?
Full-time, right now, like app-based, almost 100,000 drivers are out there. But as the demand increases, they can increase the licenses. But right now, if you go out and call for Uber, there will be 5 drivers waiting for a job.
That's right. Too many drivers. How do you decide which ones get the licenses?
You put the cap now on. You don't just
Right, but if I'm just asking if they put a cap on, meaning fewer drivers than are on the road today, how do you decide which ones get to stay and which ones get kicked out?
No, any new applications for the drivers,
yes,
universal drivers, they should be stopped. They should be capped.
Not
for the
like
new
a
ones.
moratorium for now.
Exactly.
No new ones.
No more new ones.
Got it.
Until the demands, if
Interesting. Is this in any of the bills?
Yeah, actually, that's actually my bill. The one he's talking about is LS request that I put in. Councilmember Levin's bill puts a cap on vehicles. Mine will put a cap on the licenses. So we're looking at both. Interesting enough, 4 years ago, that was before the council, and it was turned down due to some elected officials, even outside of the council, who were against it. For an interesting issue, it was related to race. They said, we're talking about 94% of drivers are immigrants, so there was this concern that it's going to affect the employment of people of color. But ironically, now it's affecting the people of
Right,
color. And
right.
this is why we need to do something. Here's the fact.
Fortunately, we're out of time.
Oh, I'm so sorry,
We're
Brian.
going to have to
That means you got to bring me back again, Brian.
Absolutely, because this is obviously not a one-show issue, but I think we've made some progress today.
Indeed.
And certainly in everybody understanding it. So thank you both very much for coming
Thank you
in.
very much. Thank you.
And that is our program for today. We're here each week at this hour at the gridlocked intersection of city politics and everyday life. You can also find me on the radio weekdays 10 a.m. to noon on WNYC, 93.9 FM and AM 820. Tomorrow, the Transit Authority's big new plan to fix the subways, including a major signal system upgrade and about 5 years of delays while the repairs are being made. I'm Brian Lehrer. Thanks for watching.